Okay. Well, welcome everybody. Good afternoon. I'm Elliot King, the president of the Gamma chapter of Phi Beta Kappa. And it's my pleasure to welcome you all to this year's Phi Beta Kappa initiation and convocation ceremony. Thank you for being here. Before we begin, please locate the nearest exits in case of an emergency, which we do not anticipate, but in addition to the door that you entered through, there are 3 exits in the basement and at the bottom of the stairwell located behind me and to my right. So please take note of those. And if you could also please put your phones on silent or vibrate, that would be brilliant as well. I'd like to take this beginning to recognize the Phi Beta Kappa Executive Committee and my esteemed colleagues whose dedication and hard work have made today's celebration possible. Sitting up on the stage, we have our immediate past president and secretary-treasurer, Kyle Friend. To my left here, Vice President Matthew Lohr, Debbie Alden in the registrar's office. For their administrative support, Linda Cummings, Linda Hurt, Emily King, and Amelia Gallo. Jim Goodwin up in the rafters for orchestrating the live streaming of this event. Kelly Fujiwara for organizing the reception. President Will Dudley for serving as our reception host following the ceremony. And our speaker, Provost Lena Hill. Thank you all. Friends and fellow members of Phi Beta Kappa, we are assembled to receive into our society certain persons who, having been duly elected by this chapter, desire to share its privileges and opportunities. Professor Kyle Friend, Secretary and Treasurer of our chapter, will now introduce the candidates.
Congratulations and welcome. To our new candidates, in accordance with the traditions of this chapter and in recognition of your exemplary intellectual and moral character, as evidenced by your outstanding academic achievements, you have been deemed worthy of membership in Phi Beta Kappa. Candidates, please rise as you are able as your name is called. I ask that everyone please hold their applause until all the names have been announced. So from the class of 2025, Stephanie Bokdor, Jessica Clark, Samuel Dowda, Miriam Drama, Estelle Fisher, Elizabeth M. Ford, Elizabeth S. Higson, Zheng Yi Ku, Elena Elizabeth Lee, Madeline Lee, Hannah K. Knowlton, Bridget Osis, Alexis Park, Shay Reinberg, Gabriel Claire Urson, Palmer B. Van Tyle, Maddie Weller, the class of 2025. From the class of 2026, Leanna M. Baker, Victoria Bliley, Rebecca Bundrent, Joshua Aiden Darrow, Nona David, Caitlin Denby, Ryan Doty, Ashley C. Ellis, Chris Ann Ennis, Aaliyah M. Gibbons, Meredith Herron, Graydon Holliday, Chelsea E. Highland, Benjamin T. Ermshire, William R. Joseph, Catherine M. Knoll, Abigail G. Leo, Catherine I. Martin, Elise C. McPherson, James North, Riharts Paradniks, Nicholas Rizzo, Sarp Sahan, John Santowski, Sarah Sims, Patrick C. Solcher, William R. Suttle, Ella N. Wallace, Marshall E. Wilt, Hamza Zia. Thank you. Candidates, your names have been submitted to the scrutiny of the chapter's constitutional electors and have met with approval. You have been formally notified of your election, and by your presence here today, You express your earnest desire to join this ancient and honorable fraternity. Congratulations on all your achievements. In the history, Elliot King.
Thank you and congratulations. I will now provide a brief history of the Phi Beta Kappa Society. Good. Phi Beta Kappa was founded on December 5th, 1776, at the Raleigh Tavern in Williamsburg, Virginia, by the students of the College of William and Mary. Born out of a passion for intellectual discourse, the society fostered open debate on any subject, no matter how controversial. To strengthen their bond, members formed a secret society with strict membership criteria, undergoing initiation rituals and learning distinctive signs and handshakes known as grips to recognize one another. They also wore an emblem, often suspended from a blue and pink ribbon, or fashioned into a key worn on a watch chain, symbols that remain to this day. The society faced a critical moment in the winter of 1781. British forces, led by General Cornwallis, occupied William and Mary, and the Phi Beta Kappa Society was temporarily disbanded. However, by this time, its influence had already spread, and new chapters ensured the society's survival. At Yale in 1780, Harvard in 1781, and Dartmouth in 1786. These early branches laid the foundation for what would become a nationwide network of members and the roots of the modern Phi Beta Kappa organization. The 1830s marked another key turning point. Amidst growing public suspicion of secret societies, fueled by fears of the influence of Freemasonry, Phi Beta Kappa chapters nationwide began to reconsider their clandestine traditions. In 1831, the writer Avery Allen published his book, A Ritual of Freemasonry, exposing Phi Beta Kappa's initiation ceremonies, sign-ins, and grips. He acknowledged that the society's noble mission was a noble mission, but argued that secrecy only bred unnecessary suspicion. His revelations intensified the debate, and that same year, the Alpha chapter of Massachusetts voted to eliminate its vow of secrecy, declaring that the world should, quote, form a just notion of Phi Beta Kappa's moral and social principles, end quote. Other chapters soon followed, transforming Phi Beta Kappa into the prestigious academic honor society it is today. By the 19th century, Phi Beta Kappa had expanded significantly, with 25 chapters across the country. In 1874, the first African-American men were elected, followed by the first woman in 1875. In 1899, the first African-American woman was inducted. Washington and Lee's Gamma Virginia chapter was founded in 1911. That first year, the chapter initiated 11 student members and celebrated with a large banquet that stretched into the early hours, finally breaking up, quote, at about 3 o'clock in the morning. But don't be alarmed, this marathon gathering featured no fewer than 10 speakers, and we only have the one. Also, no doubt contributing to the prolonged festivities, at the very next business meeting, members officially decided that, quote, no alcohol should be provided at the banquet, end quote. In the years that followed, the W&L chapter thrived, holding multiple initiations and meetings annually. The impact of World War II brought an unprecedented pause. In 1945, for the first and only time in its history, the chapter held no meetings and initiated no new members. Today, the Phi Beta Kappa Society boasts 293 chapters nationwide. While this may sound like a large number, it is in fact a very select group. Only 10% of US colleges and universities have Phi Beta Kappa chapters, and these chapters select only about 10% of their arts and sciences students to join. You are then, quite literally, amongst the top 1%. Phi Beta Kappa's members have included some of the most influential figures in American history: W.E.B. Du Bois, Mark Twain, Helen Keller, poet and activist Amanda Gorman, 17 US presidents, 42 Supreme Court justices, and more than 150 Nobel laureates, each a testament to the Society's enduring legacy of intellectual excellence. On campuses and in communities, the work of the Society continues to attest to the lifelong value of an education that fosters scientific inquiry, liberty of conscience, critical thinking, and creative endeavor for all. Now, Professor Matthew Lohr, Vice President of our chapter, will introduce you to the Phi Beta Kappa Society's key, its motto, and its historical symbols.
This is why you always need a classicist. As mentioned, the Phi Beta Kappa organization at William & Mary originally operated as a secret society. Its oath, which was shared with the first 6 northern branches, included a solemn promise to preserve inviolate its secrets. However, in the 1830s, most branches followed the lead of the Alpha chapter of Massachusetts by repealing the secrecy mandate. Despite this shift, they kept the iconic medal, or key, with its engraved symbols, along with the distinctive signs that continue to be a fundamental part of the Society's initiation rites. The standard key closely mirrors the original medal of the Alpha of Virginia chapter. On its front, the medal displays the Greek letters Phi, Beta, and Kappa, each representing the initials of Philosophia Biu Kubernetes, meaning love of wisdom, or philosophy, the helmsman of life. In the upper left corner, 3 stars symbolize the Society's guiding aims: friendship, morality, and literature. A pointing hand in the lower corner signifies aspiration. On the reverse, the letters SP represent the Society's second motto in Latin, Societas Philosophiae. Below them is engraved the historic date, December 5, 1776, and above, the member's name is sometimes inscribed. The Society also preserves 2 traditional signs. When members meet, they may greet one another by drawing the backs of their right hand's index and middle fingers across their lips from left to right, a gesture symbolizing that their lips are sealed. This silent vow is always followed by a handshake you will learn soon, reinforcing a shared commitment to the values and traditions of the Society.
Now we welcome our new members. Candidates, please rise, as you are able. I am instructed to obtain from you a promise to which I hope you will reply, I do. Do you solemnly promise that you will be true and faithful to this society, that you will obey the laws thereof, and that in the election of members you will have paramount regard for moral character and scholarly attainment? Thank you. And with that, I yield the floor to Professor Friend to continue the ceremony. Please remain standing for the moment.
Awkwardly. It is now my pleasure to welcome you individually into the chapter, showing each of you the fraternity's ancient grip. Please come forward to receive the grip and sign the roll. So what I'm going to ask you to do is to come up the stairs, and you'll sign the roll over there, and I'll shake your hand and show you the grip. Yep, oh yes. Yep.
I know, there's got the, where's the invisible barrier?
Of course. I'm going to teach everyone everything.
I'm going to show the grip.
It'll be so exciting.
Did I show the grip appropriately, or did you have to correct my
No,
mistakes?
that's great.
Yeah.
There's plenty of practice between me and my.
So that was fun. Congratulations. Your outstanding achievements both on this campus and beyond have earned you election into this elite fraternity. With your membership, we grow even stronger. We are truly honored and proud to welcome you among us. Now, in the words of Chief Justice Charles Evans Hughes, I deliver the Society's charge to you. On the occasion of Phi Beta Kappa's 100th anniversary in 1876, Justice Hughes observed, "At this time, when the world stands in need of every influence which favors intellectual discipline and achievement as against a complacent indifference, the service of Phi Beta Kappa is of heightened value. It holds aloft the old banner of scholarship, and to the students who have turned aside from the easier paths and by their talent and fidelity have proved themselves to be worthy, it gives the fitting recognition of a special distinction. If it cannot be said that careers always fulfill their early promise, even by this test, in the main, Phi Beta Kappa has been justified of her children."
Thank you, Professor Friend. By election of the chapter and by your agreement to its pledge, formalized by placing your signatures in the book, you have fulfilled all requirements for initiation. In the presence of your friends, family, and fellow members, I am honored to declare you members of the Gamma Virginia chapter of Phi Beta Kappa. As new members, you now possess full voting rights within our chapter. Please join me in congratulating our new members. We will now hear from our convocation speaker, Provost Lena Hill. Provost Hill has served as Provost of Washington and Lee since July 2021, having served as Dean of the College at WNL since 2018. Professor Hill earned her BA in English summa cum laude, Phi Beta Kappa, from Howard University. She completed a PhD in English from Yale and was a postdoctoral fellow at Duke from 2004 to 2006. Her scholarship and teaching focus on African American literature and visual culture, and she is known internationally as an expert on Ralph Ellison. In addition to serving as WNL's Chief Academic Officer, she has continued teaching and has published numerous books, articles, and essays, including Ralph Ellison's Invisible Man, a Reference Guide, Visualizing Blackness and the Creation of the African American Literary Tradition, and Invisible Hawkeyes, African Americans at the University of Iowa during the long Civil Rights era. She serves on several boards, including the National Humanities Alliance Board and the Modernist Studies Editorial Board. We are honored by her participation today and appreciate her taking the time to address the chapter and its new initiatives. Please join me in welcoming Provost Hill to the podium.
I haven't done that in a while. Good afternoon.
Just 1 second, I'm just making sure that you're, oh, there it is. Sorry.
There we go. So let me begin by adding my congratulations to you, those newest inductees to Phi Beta Kappa. I think you know better than most because you sit next to your peers who are so talented every day. So you know better than most how prestigious it really is to be inducted into Phi Beta Kappa at Washington and Lee University. So I offer you my most sincere congratulations. And then I have to admit that I've been really busy, and so while I intended to write a full keynote, I just ran out of time. So I'm going to congratulate you and take my seat. I know, it's April Fool's. I have to, right? Like, I have to. You have to. It's April Fool's. So there you go. Now I can relax, and you can relax, and you can settle in, because now I'm about to keep you for a long time. No, just kidding. Here at WNL, we really do deeply believe in liberal arts education. And that is, of course, the philosophy that gave birth to Phi Beta Kappa, and it continues to champion that philosophy. At its core, the liberal arts is translated to learning the skills for living fully and freely. This pursuit of freedom, that living freely, that sits at the core of this liberal arts educational mission intentionally ties the liberal arts education to the political realm while simultaneously lifting the broadening of the mind above political strictures. The earliest proponents of a liberal education in classical Athens made no secret of their belief that an educated citizenry was necessary for a free society to flourish. And we continue to believe this fundamental truth today. Every time I take the stage at WNL, I'm really proud to believe so fervently and authentically in this mission. Yet we also understand that no matter the political regime we find ourselves in, we experience the truest form of freedom by emancipating our minds. Freedom begins not with external rules and laws, but with internal questions and answers. So you heard, and I should thank Professor, I was so focused on my April Fool's joke that I almost I did forget to thank Professor King for that kind introduction. And I do thank him. And he noted that I'm a scholar of African American literature. And so I think about this freeing of the mind and its relationship to liberal arts quite a bit. Some of the most compelling contemplations of the importance of intellectual freedom can be found in texts by African American writers who wrestle with the beauty and promise of the ideal of U.S. democratic freedom. These artists use their written text to work through their commitment to forcing our nation to embrace the daily complexity of American life. The writers I study and teach see the relationship between physical freedom and intellectual growth in clear and succinct terms that are both powerful and impressively consonant with how we explore the importance of a liberal education today. Indeed, it is at times like this current cultural and political moment, that we would do well to remind ourselves to contemplate the stakes of liberal education and to do so with optimism and critical urgency. What we care about most deeply, we must pay the respect of actively strengthening. So I want to spend a little time today on this maintenance work by focusing on what I have titled Speaking a Path to Freedom. In Ralph Ellison's Invisible Man, a creative work regularly voted one of the most important novels of the 20th century, Ellison quietly probes the question of how we define freedom. In the opening pages of the novel, we see the protagonist confront a formerly enslaved Black woman who ponders her fraught relationship with her master, who is also the father of her children. Invisible Man, who's trying to make sense of his own mid-20th century existence, asks the formerly enslaved woman, "What is this freedom you love so well?" Her answer is profound. She says, "I guess now it ain't nothing but knowing how to say what I got up in my head." This, I contend, is the goal of a liberal education, learning how to say what you are thinking, what you believe, and what you understand to be true. So as we spend time celebrating your induction into the most prestigious academic honor society, I want to ponder how the unique nature of a W&L liberal arts education gives you the tools to, quote, say what you have inside your head in vital and powerful ways. Like the protagonist of Invisible Man, and I have taught a few of you this novel, so I expect a really rigorous conversation after this keynote. Like that protagonist who commences his journey in an attempt to more fully grasp a personal understanding of freedom, I imagine the quest to know inspires your journey at W&L. But you didn't seek a solitary odyssey. The quest to know in community is what a liberal arts university delivers. And W&L announces its commitment to this collaborative effort as soon as you step onto our campus. How, you might ask? Well, I submit that our investment in speaking to one another opens the door to communal learning. I happily acknowledge the speaking tradition is one of my favorite W&L customs. I think about it a good deal at times like this, like Admitted Students Day, which we just had last Friday. Families of admitted students always comment on the friendliness of our community. I think they suspect that our commitment to speaking to each other and to anyone who happens to be walking on campus represents more than good Southern manners. Our speaking signals something unique about our educational values. Speaking is the first step to opening a path toward learning in community. While many people we most deeply admire throughout history were autonomous learners or autodidacts, this is not why anyone chooses to attend W&L. Like the 5 students at the College of William and Mary who founded Phi Beta Kappa during the American Revolution, you sought an educational experience that depends on the presence of others. It is instructive that Phi Beta Kappa began as a debating society, a clear acknowledgement of the importance of sharpening one's thoughts about issues by testing them against those of others. Liberal education frees the mind not by hemming it into a single way of seeing things you might collect by self-curated texts, but by forcing your opinions to bump up against the dissenting views of peers, by sharpening concepts by compelling them to walk alongside new, unexplored notions presented by faculty members, by expanding thoughts by confronting the unanticipated contestation of those around us. This can certainly happen when we engage written work alone, but that's a really different experience from the real-time exuberant intensity of learning and living in community with others. So where does speaking fit into this refining of ideas and thoughts? Does it represent a unique force for a liberal education, and if so, how? As importantly to this, what is our obligation to keeping our speaking tradition alive? If we believe that speaking to someone is a crucial first step to knowing someone, then the speaking tradition most certainly has great potential power, especially on a liberal arts campus. At the very least, speaking forces us to see those around us. To return briefly to the prologue of Invisible Man, how many of you have read Invisible Man? okay? And if you haven't, there's your summer reading list, the top novel on it. In the prologue, the protagonist, it's a key moment when the protagonist bumps into a man he simply describes as a blonde man. What begins as a mere accident becomes violent when the blonde man calls the protagonist what we can assume is a racially insulting slur. The ensuing brutal and physical exchange reminds us of the consequences of failing to see each other. Harvard professor of political philosophy, ethics, and political policy, Danielle Allen, focuses on the political and social consequences of failing to reach across difference with language in her 2004 book, Talking to Strangers. Her now 20-year-old argument turns to Ellison to parse out the importance of talking to those we do not know. I would argue that our current moment begs us to return to Ellen's incisive argument with speed and intentionality. Allen takes a moment captured in our historical memory to probe the failure of talking to strangers. She focuses on integration, but this is relevant far beyond this moment. But she hones in on an instance where we bear witness to a critical democratic failure when Elizabeth Eckford and Hazel Bryan allow the expected societal norms of 1957 Little Rock, Arkansas, to shape their interaction, rather than the responsibilities as citizens of a healthy democracy. Allen probes this moment to open a larger analysis of democratic health and the importance of trust in community. She draws on Ellison to contrast his assessment of the role Black youth played in the struggle for civil rights with critic Hannah Arendt's reading. Now, as interesting as Allen's argument is, I want to tap it lightly to bring us back to the power of speaking as the beginning of a liberal arts education focused on giving you the greatest freedom possible. I'm drawn to Allen's photographic text, the one behind me, because she implicitly lights upon the travesty of young people failing to talk across difference in educational spaces. If W&L fulfills our mission, we are preparing you to develop a capacity to think freely, critically, and humanely, conduct yourselves with honor, integrity, and civility, and pursue lifelong learning, personal achievement, responsible leadership, service to others, and engage citizenship in a global and diverse society. But we can't do that if you are not prepared to speak to others with the intention of learning and understanding. Allen uncovers the reality that failing to speak to each other undermines this mission in ways with far-reaching consequences. If our speaking never goes beyond hello, we've not only lost an incredible opportunity, but we may be laying the foundation for future division. And more importantly, we are certainly missing an opportunity to learn something new. I think about this every time I'm teaching and I collect a batch of essays, and there's this brilliance that unfolds on the page from the quietest student in the class. And I think to myself, what have I done by not insisting to draw that student out, to share that brilliance with their peers? And I hope you're thinking the same thing every time you're in one of your classes and being quiet, though I suspect this crowd is probably not quiet in class. Allen also argues that the political and social realms are connected whether we want them to be or not. Ellison pushes further on this truth in his posthumously published second novel, 3 Days Before the Shooting. If you ever visit me in my office, and you all are welcome always to Washington Hall, you'll see this original engraving, the smaller one. It's a 1798 engraving that's done after Edward Savage's 1796 painting, The Washington Family. I first discovered this painting while reading Ellison's posthumously published 3 Days Before the Shooting. In that novel, a character ponders this image. I wasn't even familiar with this image until I read the novel, which he creates in such detail, which I think of as an ekphrastic moment, that I immediately began looking for this painting. And in this ekphrastic moment, this character ponders, he begins to examine the relationship between the founder of our country and the namesake of our institution, and William Lee, the enslaved man who was by Washington's side longer than any other person, both throughout the Revolutionary War and through the founding of the country. Now, Ellison turns to the image to speculate about the fact that the two men, notwithstanding their profoundly different stations in life, and the knotty reality of relations between the enslaved and those who own them, but he turns to it to acknowledge that they were by no means strangers. Ellison disrupts the silence of this image to insist on the talking that undoubtedly characterized the long relationship between the two men. He goes so far to suggest that William Lee, the only enslaved person Washington freed upon his death, may have influenced Washington's thoughts about freedom and citizenship and national identity from the time of the U.S. founding. Ellison's fictional deliberation feeds his philosophical examination of the civil rights movement and the larger project of democratic health and education. He exuberantly celebrated the progress of the civil rights movement, particularly in relationship to school integration, because Ellison deeply believed in the importance of learning across difference. The freedom to know is at the heart of a successful democracy where citizens are empowered to reach their greatest potential. It is my hope that all of you, as you leave W&L or finish your work here, that while you are here, that you are always thinking about learning from those around you. You're fortunate to have the comfort of the classroom, a space of shared trust and community, to try out ideas and handle new thoughts with peers who you know and those who you may be just getting to know. This is very different than having a conversation with someone on the store or on the street. And I think this is why we fought hard for school integration and why the founders of Phi Beta Kappa began by contemplating big thoughts like the question of slavery as they declared a love of learning as a guide of life. In contemplating the power of the word, Ellison actually declares, quote, "The most insidious and least understood segregation is that of the word. For if the word has potency to revive and make us free, it also has the power to blind, imprison, and destroy." I implore you to use the power of your words thoughtfully as you follow your passions at W&L. I hope you leave here and speak to everyone on our campus and beyond with the intent of learning, evolving, growing. A good liberal education depends on you seeking the freedom to think according to your own beat and speak words of truth. In that endeavor, I wish you well. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much. That gave us a lot of inspiring thoughts to think about, I think particularly given the origins of Phi Beta Kappa as an organization that fostered conversations about inherently difficult topics and reaching across different ideas. I think it's a really excellent time to reconsider that, particularly in terms of Ellison's work, so thank you for that. As our formal initiation ceremony closes, we eagerly look forward to welcoming our initiates and their family members to the President's house following the ceremony. If new members could please wait for just a few minutes, we're going to get a group photo just outside, so please stick around for just a bit, and we will get that done. But then we will head over to the grand feast that will not take 10 hours at the President's house. Thank you once again for the celebration. We look forward to seeing you soon. Thank you.